Hi everybody, it's Julianne Jones here with a quick video to answer the video Q&A questions that I got on the Facebook fan page yesterday during Video Q&A Monday. So there were only a couple questions. This shouldn't take too long. I'm going to head over to the page right now. First question came from Joan Burmeister. I would love your ideas on prospecting. And I actually got a second question from Kelly McKierney. Hi Julianne, what's the best way to get more recruits? Which is pretty much the same question. So I'm going to answer both Kelly and Joan at the same time. So my first response to that is probably a little bit more higher level or a bigger picture thinking, which really the advice I have is to be yourself and to be as authentic as you possibly can, and to share your passion about your products, your opportunity, and your company. I always say you have to have 100% belief in those three things and in the potential for those things to change someone else's life in order to be a effective recruiter. So number one, if you're with a company that you don't really believe in, or you're not completely sure yourself that it's possible to be successful with that company, you have to kind of look at how it's going to be possible for you to share that opportunity with someone else. And it might require a change on your part, either in your thinking or in the company that you're with even, or the product that you're representing. So number one, you have to have a really strong belief in your product, your opportunity, and your company, the company itself, and the support you get from them. And if you really have that deeply ingrained, it's going to come across authentically and in every interaction that you have when you're talking about your opportunities. So start from that perspective. I think it's really important that you have a way to share your opportunity at your parties. I used what I called an opportunity commercial, where I basically shared from my heart what I loved about my opportunity, why I was passionate about sharing that, and then I actually used a visual way to share what I loved about my job to get the audience or my customers involved and have them wanting to learn more. I think it's really important that you share during your parties, and also that you are authentic about the fact that you haven't always been as good as you are maybe now. A lot of times if people are sitting at your party and they're a guest and they see how good you are at doing your presentation, they might be thinking, well, I could never do it as well as she does. But what they don't realize is you haven't always been that good, and I think it's important to say that up front. So I actually started my parties with what I called my story, but it was actually really a very seeding-rich environment for me to talk about how I started my business, how I got involved, became a representative for my products, and kind of what happened in the beginning of my business. And usually I shared things that weren't necessarily all that positive. In other words, I was so nervous at my first party, I thought I was going to have to go in the bathroom and throw up or whatever, because that gives those people that are watching you the perspective that you haven't always been as good as you are, especially if you've been doing this for a long time. That's important. I think it's also important to have a duplicatable party presentation. So in other words, the guests are sitting there thinking, I could do that. Maybe not as well as her, but I could do that. It makes recruiting from your parties much easier. You also need to make sure that you are sharing your opportunity with every single host with whom you're working, and that you're giving them the opportunity to start their business and turn their party into their kickoff party, where you take the sales and they get all the bookings. If you don't have a good system for doing that, you need to look at that, because sharing your opportunity with your host is one of the quickest ways to build your team. I think the DSA says something like 90% of all current representatives were started out as hosts at some point, or have been hosts in the past. So that's a gold mine. Finally, I think it's important at the end of that party to ask your host the question, who do you know who was either here tonight or wasn't, who would be great at what I do? If you're using some sort of a door prize drawing slip, or what I call a guest care card, you collect those during the party, and at the end of the evening you fan those out and you say to her, so who among these people would be great at what I do? And she's going to point out at least one or two people. So when you call that person, you can say, hey, I was talking with Mary at the end of her party the other night, and she told me that she thought you'd be great at what I do and that I should call you. It's not 100% accurate, but it's true. And it makes it much easier to make that phone call. So you have at least 2 recruit leads from every party that you do, and that would be your host and then the one or more people that she recommends based on your question. As far as prospecting in other ways, like on Facebook, social media, advertising, that type of thing, I think that you can do that, but I think the most powerful way to prospect is through personal contact. We are a relationship-driven industry, and if you are connecting with people through your parties, when you're out and about, if you're going to Chamber of Commerce meetings, or you're in any other sort of a leads club in your hometown, those are the best places. The face-to-face interaction is the best. Doesn't mean you can't recruit, and a lot of people do really well using social media. You just have to do it a little bit differently. And one of the things I will tell you about that is to treat it the same way you would any other opportunity. So rather than spamming out all your friends with, requests to learn more about your opportunity or telling them that you have a kit special this month and they all need to get in on that, work on building relationships. And when you notice something that someone shares that you could support them with, either with your product, a booking, or your opportunity, then you come in and say, hey, I noticed you said this. We have a product that would be great for that. Or, if you're frustrated with your daycare situation, I can relate because I used to be as well. I'd love to talk with you about my opportunity. That's a much more organic, I think, healthy way to prospect. So hopefully that helps both of you, Joan and Kelly. I had one other question from Dawn Gilman. Julianne, I've pretty much gone AWOL to my customers over the last several months, and that happens, so don't feel bad, Dawn. Aside from a few Facebook posts here and there, what would be the best way to come back to my business and earn back my customers' loyalty? I think the best thing to do is to be 100% honest, Dawn. It's what I do. If I've misplaced something or I've forgotten to follow up and I realize 3 months later I never called that person, I make the call anyway and I say, I'm so embarrassed. I don't know how this happened, but you slipped through the cracks, and I almost didn't call you, but I promised I would, so here I am a couple months late, but please forgive me. Life just got crazy or whatever. I think it's much better to just be honest and say, hey, I've been kind of AWOL. A lot of things that happened in my personal life that kept me from my business, but I'm back now. I really want to support you. Thank you for your patience, for waiting for me. How can I best support you? If you're always coming from a space of customer support or support with your team, reaching out and asking that question, how can I support you? It's going to be much easier for them to forgive you and say, hey, you know what? It happens to all of us. So be authentic and offer to support them, find out what they need, and see if you can meet those needs for them. Thanks, ladies, for your questions today. This is exactly how Video Q&A Monday works. You ask your questions Monday, I do the video Tuesday, and then I post the video on the page with my answers to your questions. Very simple. So please come back and join us if you haven't done this yet, or even if it's been a while since you've asked a question. Come back next Monday and ask your question, and you can be a part of this as well. There are links below this video if you're watching it on the YouTube channel, or there are links everywhere, whether you're on Facebook or YouTube, and you can check out how to reach me out in social media, join my mailing list if you haven't yet, and just generally get connected, because I'd love to be connected with you out in the social media sphere. Hope you're having a fabulous week, and I will hopefully hear from you next week on Video Q&A Monday. Bye-bye!